Hey everybody, you're watching We the Fandom, where we discuss comic books, pop culture, and the fandom experience. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel to see more content. How's it going, everybody? Jacob here at We the Fandom, and I know this thumbnail has Miss Marvel in it, and I said I wasn't going to watch or review Miss Marvel, and that's still true. Today we're talking about review bombing, referencing an article which I think fails to really stick to the definition of review bombing, and then also talk about similar type of behavior that comes from people on both sides of the fandom. So, in talking about review bombing, we looked at this tweet here from MCU The Direct, which links to this article by the website The Direct. And the reason I picked this one was because I read about 9 articles with the same title, Miss Marvel getting review bombed, and this was the only one that gave any examples that in which they try to demonstrate what they view as review bombing, but which I don't think is review bombing at all. So let's go through this article real quick. So here it says, going into phase 4, fans have proven more critical than ever of the films and series that have come out of the MCU, which I would agree with. This negativity has in part stemmed from legitimate criticisms, but some cases have also come from the growing trend of review bombing, in which a project is bombarded with poor ratings for unsubstantiated reasons. And that right there, that last little bit of the line is very important. The MCU's latest release, Miss Marvel, is the latest to fall victim to this trend. So here it says Miss Marvel has faced review bombing on IMDb following the series premiere because of a variety of extreme criticisms despite the overwhelmingly positive critical response. Disney Plus series currently has a 6-star rating made up of 41.9% 10-star, 28.7% 1-star, and a fairly even volume of everything between. And so there you see there. Now, looking at it right now as I'm recording this video, obviously it's changed. So you have 24.7 1-star and 39.4% as 10-star. And so you have 1,778 reviews or votes for 10-star and 1,115 for 1-star. Now, here's where they actually get into the examples of what they view as review bombing. So one guy says, this show has literally nothing except for unnecessary colors and artworks. The plot is garbage, far away from the comic storyline. The origin of Kamala's power is literally the worst idea anyone can think of. Now, I would view those as legitimate criticisms. I haven't watched the show, but I've seen the trailer, and in one of the trailers, it's shown that while Kamala Khan is walking along the street, she's kind of like daydreaming or something. And so she's seeing all this like moving graphic art across the buildings and the road and all that. So it would be kind of weird if you're used to the other Disney Plus series or if you're used to watching anything else. I have heard that they have deviated from the comic book storyline, so that's also a legitimate criticism. And I've also heard they changed her powers from the comic books. So again, those are all just like valid criticisms of the show as it's been presented so far. The next one is Marvel. This is not what we want. Another mediocre Marvel show, but this show feels like an actual Disney show. I just want Daredevil back and good stories, not this garbage. So what that person is saying is that they feel like it's like a, I don't know, I guess they're saying this is like a one of those like teen or kid Disney shows. And comparing it to Daredevil, again, I would say is a pretty legitimate criticism. Daredevil is pretty well known among the Marvel community as being the standard for Marvel TV, even though I don't believe that show is technically canon to the MCU. The next one says it's really rubbish. It's quite literally a children's show. Quite rubbish green screen and horrible concepts, but some features are quite neat if you were an 11-year-old. So again, this guy's criticizing that this feels like a kid's Disney show. And in terms of the green screen, I've mentioned in a video before that the CGI for She-Hulk looked like crap. And even with Obi-Wan Kenobi, some of the set pieces and the CGI in there don't look very good. So I would say myself, even though I haven't seen Miss Marvel, there's ample evidence that in the other current Disney projects that their digital effects are pretty lackluster at this point. The next one says, Disney is off the mark. Please stop bowing to the woke mob and make something genuine. Focus on your fans, not social issues. It is a shame that Disney is distorting yet another franchise. So I'm not sure if there are social issues presented in the show, but I would agree to some degree that some of the kind of woke ideology and stuff has come into phase 4 of Marvel. And I think they tend to focus more on that kind of stuff like diversity and representation and all that over story. So maybe that one you can say isn't a valid criticism. It's just somebody review bombing it. The next one is this is one of the worst first episodes I've ever seen. Boycotting this garbage of a show because of how they didn't even talk about India-Pac situation. So this one is, I would say, a valid criticism, but it's the opposite of the last one, where this guy actually wants them to talk about social issues and politics, and it's because of the fact that Miss Marvel is Pakistani American girl. So this person thought they'd address issues going on between India and Pakistan. This next one, power from a bracelet is nonsense. Inhumans Terrigenesis would be a better idea. People limited by idiotic traditions who do not allow their children to be happy. I'm not sure about that second line. In terms of the first one, again, they're addressing the fact that they've changed Miss Marvel's origin story and her powers. So in the comics, she's one of the Inhuman race, which is similar to the mutants in that they're born with they're born with the potential for powers, but they can't attain those powers until they become exposed to the Terrigen Mists. But they've removed that storyline and her origin in the show, and instead I guess they gave her like these wrist bracelets or something like that. Next one says it's only for some community. Weak storyline. Everything is at its worst condition. This character is not needed in Marvel Comics. Marvel will be losing his audience in India in recent years if they make these types of cringe series. So that comment's a little bit hard to follow. I'm not sure if it was like translated from a different language or if I assume English isn't their first language. So it's a little bit hard to see. They think it's a cringe series and that people in India won't like it. It's only for some community. I'm guessing they're saying that it's only made for. I wonder if he's addressing the India Pakistani thing because obviously it's a Pakistani American girl and he says you're losing your audience in India. So maybe again it has something to do with that turmoil that's happening over there. The next one says, so this selfish ass had superpowers in a jewelry box and didn't help in any crisis this universe endured. And on top of it, they mock actual heroes who risked their lives when they sit back and did nothing. I'm not sure what all they're referencing there. I have heard that again, Ms. Marvel's origin was changed. So instead of giving inhuman powers, she gets her powers from bracelets that she got from her mom, supposedly. So again, this is an actual, legitimate criticism based on their interpretation of the comic books. Now, I'm not going to go. This is basically the end of the article. Again, the only one of 9 articles that actually attempted to provide examples of what they view as review bombing. So I appreciate that they gave those examples. However, I disagree with all but maybe one of those comments that there was any review bombing going on. And I would also say it's funny that again, you look at the ratings here and they would say, well, 1,115 people giving it 1 star. Those are all just review bombs. Those are people, toxic trolls who didn't actually watch the show or blah, blah, blah. That's legitimate. But 1,778, completely positive reviews, like that's totally valid. Like they don't see kind of the discrepancy in the way they're viewing that. I mean, if you look at the Rotten Tomatoes, you'll see that at this moment, Miss Marvel has a percentage or 1% higher critic score than Avengers Endgame did. And you could say, well, Avengers Endgame came out a few years ago. But I would say that with that movie being what it was, I seriously doubt that the percentage of that critic score has changed much, if at all, since it came out. Versus Miss Marvel, I think this is what you're probably going to see, at least for this first episode, for quite a while. And the idea that you can say, okay, let's pretend like 1,700 10-star reviews is totally legitimate, but, the 1,100 1-star is completely false. It's just a bunch of bots. Nothing will ever convince me that Miss Marvel, of all things, has a higher percentage on Rotten Tomatoes from the critics than Avengers Endgame. Like Avengers Endgame is peak MCU. I don't think the MCU is ever going to hit that level of popularity again. And I sincerely doubt that the percentage has changed again, much if at all, since its premiere. So that right there tells me there's a huge discrepancy, which, that's been that way for years. There's always the talk of that review bombing is a recent trend, but I'd also say this huge discrepancy between critic scores and audience scores, it is also a trend that started around that same time, which, is very convenient. So here's the thing. People Typically, those on the left, social justice warriors, those who only care about diversity and representation over story, as well as the media outlets that get early access to these shows and movies and don't want to lose it. I'm also talking about legitimate fans of this kind of content. If you would genuinely enjoy Ms. Marvel, and I'm not talking about because of you wanting like diversity bullshit, not because you think it's going to bother all the right people. I mean, if you genuinely enjoy Ms. Marvel, you need to tell the people on your side that labeling people as racist or homophobic or sexist or any of the long laundry list of terms, you are not helping your cause. When you make claims like that without providing any evidence to back them up, you just look like disingenuous morons. Now, I'll be fair and address the other side as well. Whether or not review bombing is actually occurring, if you are review bombing, if you're giving 1 star just to give 1 star, if you're giving a bad review when you haven't actually watched it, you are also not helping your cause. Group that needs to hear this the most, while some would say it'd be journalists, I would say it's content creators. Content creators who are constantly making videos complaining about social justice warriors and yet will review content that they state very clearly at the beginning of the video that they hated from the get-go. I'm not going to name names, nor will I say all, I mean some content creators who typically find themselves on the opposing side of SJWs, make their bread and butter complaining about woke content, and then they'll go and praise mediocre content just because it isn't woke, which is a pretty low standard in my opinion. They're the other side of the same coin as the SJWs who act like racism has ended when some woke movie or TV series is made. Every time they introduce another gay character or another gender-swapped character, and hey, it's your business. You know you can make a lot of money making outrage bait for your side, so do what you want. But I'd say if you legitimately care about your hobbies, if you really want to see positive change, if you want to see a new Star Wars or Marvel or Lord of the Rings project and get the same enjoyment out of it as you did when you were a kid seeing it for the first time, then stop just spouting the opposite rhetoric of the social justice crowd. Wanting conservative politics injected into something to own the libs is just as bad as leftists making comic books woke to spite conservatives. Now this part is for both sides. If you want your favorite franchise to get better, we need to stop focusing on the politics and the ideological messaging and make it about the escapism again. Have your message focus on escapism. Try to remember what it was like to enjoy that thing you used to enjoy. Maybe instead of giving bad reviews to modern comics that you already know beforehand that you're not going to like, talk about the comics that really drew you into the hobby in the first place. Again, whether you're on one side or the other, if you use your platform to constantly complain about the other side, you are just giving them attention. If you don't like Ms. Marvel and are going to hate watch it so that you can make a review where you tell everyone that you hate it, that's performative activism. Even if you think it's for your side, it's still activism. You're giving Marvel free advertising. You may tell people to cancel their Disney Plus memberships, but then you still give Disney your time and the time of your viewers. It's stupid. I hope you guys got something out of that rant. If you did, I'd appreciate it if you hit that like and subscribe button. And if you hit that notification bell, you'll never miss out on a new video. I'll see y'all next time. Bye.